Hey guys, the next one we're gonna do is still from 2.1. It's kind of awkward. It's gonna get you confused a little bit, so just get ready. It says find f parentheses negative x minus f of x for okay. Well, first off, f of x is right here. It's what I gave you. So the back end of what they're telling us to find is right here. Woohoo. Now all we have to do is find the front end of what they're asking us to find and then subtract the two. So let's find f parentheses negative x. It's like what we just did, only it has a different exponent. So let's see, we're gonna find f parentheses negative x, and we're gonna plug in a negative x into these x's. So we'll have parentheses negative x parentheses to the 3 minus open parentheses negative x close parentheses minus 3. And if you don't put that parentheses, you're wrong. Okay, so let's see. First off, we get negative x to the 3. We look back at those how-to steps, and it says down here on step 3, if you have negative x to an odd power, it spits out negative x with that odd power. So since this tiny 3 is odd, it's going to spit out negative x to the 3. And that's because negative x times negative x is positive x squared. But then if you take x squared and multiply it by another negative x, so that we have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. This gives you negative x cubed. So that's why I get negative x cubed. If you don't want to think about that whole power thing, you don't have to. Okay, then negative times negative x makes positive x, and then a big fat minus 3. Okay, now all we're going to do is we're going to write it all together. It said find f of negative x. Well, that's what I just got. Negative x to the 3 plus x minus 3. Then it says fat subtract sign, f of x. Well, my f of x is this original, the blue guy. And since I'm going to minus this whole blue guy, this dark blue guy, I'm going to use parentheses because otherwise it's wrong. So the first sucker is that f of negative x that we got from plugging in negative x. Then I have a fat subtract from what they told us to do. And then f of x is what they gave us. And it's so big, I put it in parentheses. Okay, now we're going to distribute the negative. And we get still negative x to the 3 plus x minus 3. But now we have a negative x3, and then instead of a minus x, we have a big fat plusative x, and instead of minus 3, we have a big fat plusative 3. And again, we're doing that because we are distributing that negative before the parentheses, and that changes the signs. Okay, now we're going to combine like terms. I got negative pretend 1 x to the 3 minus another pretend 1 x cubed, and that makes a big fat negative 2 x cubed. Whoa. Then let's look at our x's. I got a good old positive x plus another x. That makes plus 2x. Now let's look at our naked numbers. Negative 3 plus 3. Oh, those cankle. So my answer is just negative 2x to the 3 plus 2x. Okay, now let's look at this second sucker. This one is from, I think it's from 2.2, section 2.2. But it's the same thing. We're going to do evaluating, which is what we just did, where we plugged in something, we combined like terms. On the page before, we plugged in something. Yeah, okay. And if we plugged in a number, we got out a number. Okay. Let's look at this. It says f of x equals, oh my gosh, there's two equations. This is called a piecewise because it's P says, okay, yeah. And then part A says find f of -3. So we're going to take that -3 and we're going to plug it into our x's, but we just have to figure out which equation. Well, this -3 is smaller than 0. -3 is smaller than 0. Yeah, that's right. And it's definitely not bigger or equal than 0. So if I take this -3 and put it in this first if statement, it makes sense. -3 less than 0. If I put it in the second statement, -3 bigger than or equal to 0, nah, bro, it's not. So, since it made sense for the first if statement, I'm going to use the first equation of 4x plus 5. So because of this -3 less than 0 being true, I'm going to use the equation that went with that less than, which is 4x plus 5. So I'm going to take that -3 and plug it into the x on the 4x plus 5. So 4 parentheses -3 plus 5. And then let's math. This gives us -12 plus 5. And that's -7. So f of -3 is equal to -7. Let's find part B, f of 0. Well, first we have to figure out where the 0 can be on this if statement. Can it be on the first sucker? 0 is less than 0? Or is it from the second sucker? 0 is bigger than or equal to 0. Well, it's not the first sucker because we have to have the little equal tick mark. So since it's the second sucker with the equal tick mark, 0 is bigger than or equal to 0. Since it came from the second if statement, I'm going to use the second equation of 3x plus 6. And I'm going to take this 0 and plug it into the x. So we're going to have 3 parentheses. Instead of x, I'll put 0 plus 6. And that just gives me 6 because 3 times 0 goes away. So f of 0 is equal to 6. Okay, lastly, let's find f of 2. So let's see here. Where does 2 fit in this if statement? Is 2 smaller than 0? No. Is 2 bigger than or equal to 0? Yes. So since 2 is bigger than or equal to 0, we're going to use the matching equation of 3x plus 6. So that means I'm going to take this 2 and plug it into the x. Take this 2 and plug it into the x of the 3x plus 6. And that gives us 6 plus 6 or 12. So f of 2 equals 12. So this type of problem, even though it looked terrifying because of that if stuff, first you just find your parentheses number and then see what makes sense when you put it where the x is. Then whichever one makes sense, that's the equation that you plug it into. Okay,